אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני. בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד. מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ברופאי חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומשמיח ישוע. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי המתים. You are holy, awesome is your name. We have no God but you. We praise you, eternal one, the holy God. Please sit down. And let's read together. We thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you're near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts the sense of your presence. Bring us peace. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי Shabbat vayinofa. And together, our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel, who hallow your name, be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship. Modim anachnu lach. שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן ישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tovenecha levarei et Amcha Yisrael bechol ein ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, Osei HaShalom. This Shabbat is one of the special Shabbatot with, it's got a special name. Anyone know what the name is? This is going to be a night. This is not a standard sermon. Michael said he's only come for the sermon, but there will be a sermon, Michael, but it's not the standard sort of stuff. We'll be a bit of teaching tonight, something different. But so we can't go any further till anybody knows the name of the Shabbat. Well, if you look at the study sheets I've given you from Exodus, have you all got one? Yeah? It starts, Exodus chapter 12, verses 1. It says, Vayome Adonai el Moshe, and God said to Moses, Ve'el Aaron, in that land of Egypt, Lemor, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. Yes, this month shall be for you the first of the month, and of all the months. And so this has a name, Shabbat HaChodesh, the Sabbath of the month, because it falls on the first day of the first month according to the biblical calendar. Well, what's normally the name? It doesn't give us the name of the month. What's the name of the month? The first month? Hey, you thought you were coming for an easy time tonight, but you're going to make your work. Eh? Isn't it Nisan? Yes, isn't Pesach in Nisan? You should have known that. Anyway, traditionally, it's the Sabbath when we read that bit in the synagogue tomorrow to remind us that if this is the first of Nisan, then, and what date does Pesach come? 15th, okay, so we've only got 2 weeks to go before Pesach is on. But let's read the portion. Anyone want to come and read it, or shall I? Anyone feel like reading? Oh, I've got to do all the work tonight by the look of it, don't I? And by the way, those people who are watching on the live streaming, you go and get your Bibles. I'm sure you know exactly where they are. It's Exodus chapter 12 we're looking at, okay? Anyway, this is what it says. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the whole community of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, then let them share one with the neighbor closest to his household in the number of persons. You shall apportion the lamb according to what each person shall eat. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a yearling male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep watch over it until the 14th day of this month, and all the aggregate community of the Israelites shall slaughter it at twilight. The aggregate, I think it means you all do it together. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses on which they shall eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or cooked in any way with water, but roasted, head, legs, and entrails over the fire. You shall not leave any of it until the morning. If any of it is left until the morning, you shall burn it. This is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is a Passover offering to the Lord. For that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and I will mete out punishments to all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. And the blood on the houses which you shall dwell shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass over, so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the very first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread for the first day to the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. Well, it's probably a passage that you know, or you've heard of before, the introduction to the 10th plague, and the blood on the doorpost as a sign to guard the house, the Hebrew houses anyway, from the angel of death or whatever it is. But let's ask the few questions. We've read it now. There's no name for the month, is it? If you looked at it, it's just called Rosh Chodeshim, the head of the month, just in the same way as Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. And then it says Rishon, it's the first of all months. And therefore, and if you know Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, there's no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's Yom Rishon, the first day, Yom Sheni, the second day, Yom Shlishi, the third day, all the way up until the only one with a name is Yom Shabbat. And so it seems a similar thing. But of course the month does have a name. I've told you the name already, but you know another name for the month. It seems the first name that they gave it once they got into the land was the month of Aviv, of spring, which makes a certain sense. And so it goes from a month without a name, just a number, then it goes to an agricultural name of spring, and then eventually, after the Babylonian, when the Jews had been in exile in Babylon, they adopted the Babylonian name, which is Nisan. And so if you think about it, just as the festival itself developed over time, over biblical time even, then it's developed to this day, and it's one of the traditions always to try and make something new at the Seder and not keep to the same thing year after year. What are you asked to do in the text? What's the first thing you're asked to do? When? On the, not 10 days before, on the 10th of the month, so remember that. And then, what's the next date you're given? Yeah? Yeah, well, Michael asked that question before the service. I always thought it was a sheep, but evidently you can take a lamb from a goat, but they've somehow... Anyway, I suppose if you can't find a sheep, you've got a goat. But anyway, you can use either. So, but I've never heard of anyone using a goat's bone. You know, we have a lamb bone on the Seder plate. I've never heard of a goat bone. But anyway, there you go. Okay, and you've got it on the 10th. What do you have to do with it then? Keep it. What does it mean, keep it? Look after it. You've got to guard it, really. The word is guard. You've got to look after it well, because on the 14th you're going to kill it, yes. And so you have to hope that during the 4 days you don't get too attached to the lamb, because there it is in your house, and then suddenly you've got to kill it. When do you kill it? Twilight, which seems to give us permission to start Seder early. We don't have to wait until it's dark, which is the tradition, but here we have it at twilight. At least you have to kill it at twilight while it's still light, which makes a lot of sense, because you can't see what you're doing once it becomes dark, presumably. And then we know what happens with the blood of the lamb and so on. And so what do we have here is the foundational text of our Seder. But if we only had this text and nothing else, what would we do? I mean, just think about the Seder. We're not allowed to slaughter lambs anymore or to use their blood, so we're not going for that. But what else would we do? What? Okay, we remember. It's a thing of remembrance, and that's what we do all through the Seder, isn't it? All of the bits we do, like the charoset and the bitter herbs and all this sort of thing, and the whole purpose of the night is to remember the Exodus. So the very Seder itself follows that. But what are the rituals? First of all, what do we dress in? We followed this. If this was our text, what would you dress in? Sandals. And loins girded. Does anyone know what loins girded mean? I'm never quite sure about that one. And in a staff in our hand, because, of course, they got ready to go. What? A truss. I don't think it's a truss. The people listening, be careful here. That's right. I don't think it's a truss, but I don't know. It means you're ready to go. That's the whole point, because the next morning after the plague, you have to make your way. The Exodus. Pardon? Well, that becomes relevant in a minute. Think about that later in a little while. And in fact, some of the more exotic Jewish communities, like Moroccans and the Yemenite community, I don't know whether there's anyone there, the Bukharian community, actually celebrate the Seder like this, with long gowns and with a staff ready to go. And during the Seder, actually, the leader, key parts, when he actually, with his staff, walks around the room reenacting it. And why not? Because we reenact it when we have the bitter herbs and so on. And as far as the things you do, the only thing you have, you eat with the lamb, bitter herbs and matzah. The lamb, we don't have. And ever since that, at the end of the temple, it's not been traditional to have lamb. Does anyone here have lamb on? No, I mean, it's not tradition, is it? It's a strange one. We keep away from lamb because we don't want to pretend that we're doing... I don't know why we keep away from lamb. But we do the one thing because you remember Hillel says, what did Hillel say in the Haggadah? You see, I'm getting you ready, but you're not... Are you ready? What did Hillel say in the Haggadah? Just before the meal, Hillel said, you shall have the lamb with bitter herbs and matzah. Yeah, we have the Hillel sandwich, which is, nowadays we're all vegan because we're not allowed to have the lamb, so it's just the bitter herbs and the matzah. Okay, anyway, that's basically what the passage is about. But I did have a thought when I was looking at the Jewish Chronicle today and last week, because over the ages it's become a tradition that comes from here, that if your household is too small to finish off a lamb, you should invite people to your Seder. And in a way, that's become a tradition of inviting all the family, inviting neighbours, inviting the stranger, inviting the poor. But it intrigues me to note that an ever-increasing number of people do not stay at home for Pesach. They abandon the family and friends, and they go and celebrate Pesach in a kosher hotel in Israel, or Nice, or some other resort, or on a cruise even. You can go on a Pesach cruise. And there are many adverts in the Jewish Chronicle and elsewhere about this. And the explanation, especially from our Orthodox friends, they go away in order to avoid the bother of having to kosher their home for Pesach. Well, I'm not sure if this is honouring the original idea that we had in tonight's reading, or 3 millennia of Jewish tradition, because surely throughout the ages we've said that Seder is one of the key factors in bonding the family and bringing the family back together again, even if they don't talk to each other for the rest of the year, and bringing the Jewish community together. Which reminds me, I can put in an advert that there are still places at the communal Seder here if you haven't already booked your place. But just to change the subject slightly and go away from the text, because the monthly magazine of the Association of the Jewish Refugees, AJR, invariably has an excellent article on the front page. And this month it's headed, "A Refugee by Any Other Name." And it explores the words refugee, immigrant, exile, émigré. Were our forebears who left Russia in the late 19th century or early 20th century, fleeing from pogroms or economic hardship. And for the most of them, we have to be honest, it wasn't the pogroms, it was just the economic hardship that forced them to leave. Were they refugees? Or were they migrants seeking a better way of life? If you flee, but always in your mind at least intend to return when things improve, are you a refugee or an exile? Like the Czech or the French government encamped in Metroland or Surrey during the Second World War, living in exile but eventually returning to their homeland. Émigrés are often individuals. Did anyone see that program recently on Rudolf Nureyev? Was he a refugee or was he an émigré? Were the ancient Hebrews who came down to Egypt in the first place because, if you remember, they came there because of the famine in Canaan, were they refugees or economic migrants? And when 350 years later they fled from Egypt, they were now surely truly refugees, escaping real persecution. Like the Seder itself, it's a question repeated in every generation. And today, when we saw the men, women and children escaping from the brutality of the civil war in Syria, we had no problem calling them refugees. But soon questions were asked about the motives of an increasing number on the fringes of those on the move. Were they real refugees or were they economic migrants? And how does the host country label the incomers? As genuine refugees or immigrants? And that, was it not that last word, immigration, as the basic cause behind this Brexit mess that seems to be going on, or going nowhere, except just getting messier and even more chaotic? Immigrant, exile, émigré, refugee. Words it might be worth discussing as you celebrate your Seder this year. It's a very relevant one that comes up, and some of the modern Haggadot actually explore that theme with poems and with questions. And to end, I suppose there's no solutions or definitions, but I want to end with a superb poem of Marge Piercy that you also have. It seems to sum up so beautifully the story of the Exodus from Egypt, and you could just read that and forget the Seder in a way. It tells the story of the Exodus of Egypt and the challenge faced by every generation who must make the decision to leave home, to seek a new life, to seek a better life, and sometimes to seek life itself. And for those of you who are at home, and we know that every week there are sometimes many, many people watching at home, if you want to read the poem yourself, you've got to go to your page 20b in the new Liberal Judaism Haggadah, B'chol Dor Vador. So I think this sums up, I could have just read the poem and not given my words because I think it's so superb. Magid. The courage to let go of the door, the handle, The courage to shed the familiar walls whose very stains and leaks are comfortable as the little moles on the upper arm. Stains that recall a feast, a child's naughtiness, a loud blistering storm that slapped the roof hard, pouring through. The courage to abandon the graves dug into the hill, the small bones of children and the brittle bones of the old whose marrow hunger had stolen. The courage to desert the tree planted and only begun to bear, the riverside where promises were shaped, the street where their empty pots were broken. The courage to leave the place whose language you learned as early as your own, whose customs, however dangerous or demeaning, bind you like a halter you've learned to pull inside, to move your load. The land fertile with the blood spilled on it, the roads mapped and annotated for survival. The courage to walk out of the pain that is known into the pain that cannot be imagined, mapless, walking into the wilderness, going barefoot with a canteen into the desert, stuffed in the stinking hold of a rotting ship, sailing off the map into dragons' mouths. Cathay, India, Serbia, Golden and Medina, leaving bodies by the way like abandoned treasure. So they walked out of Egypt. So they bribed their way out of Russia under loaves of straw. So they steamed out of the bloody, smoking charnel house of Europe on overloaded freighters forbidden all ports. Out of pain into death or freedom, or a different painful dignity, into squalor and politics. We Jews are all born of wanderers, with shoes under our pillows and a memory of blood that is ours raining down. We honor only those Jews who changed tonight, those who chose the desert over bondage, who walked into the strange and became strangers, who gave birth to children who could look down on them, standing on their shoulders for having been slaves. We honor those who let go of everything but freedom, who ran, who revolted, who fought, who became other by saving themselves. Pretty powerful, isn't it? It's a wonderful poem, and it speaks of the experience of many people throughout the ages, I'm really sure. And so we turn to our concluding prayers on page 519, page 519. Page 519. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael osei niflaot levado. Uvaruch Shem kevodo le'olam. V'malei kevodo et kol haaretz. Amen v'amen. The eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one and known to be one. May your love, O God, rest upon us as we rest our hope in you. All the nations that you have made shall come and bow down before you and honor your name. Let God be praised by day. Let God be praised by night. Let God be praised when we lie down. Let God be praised when we rise up. Our God in heaven, let your unity be acknowledged and your sovereignty established forever. Reign over us now and always. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai limroch leolam noeh. And on page 522. As we worship before you, O God, we think of those who once shared with us the joys and burdens of life and who are no longer in our midst. The sorrow of bereavement is softened by the bond of love which continues to unite us with our dear ones, and by our cherished memories of them which we will always carry in our hearts. May all that was good in their lives remain with us as an influence for good. O God, grant consolation to those who are in sorrow, and light to those in darkness. Teach us at all times to put our trust in you and to praise your name. And on this Shabbat, we do make mention of the names of those on the occasion of their yahrzeit, of Jeffrey Fisher, the husband of Barbara Fisher, father of Massey and Nick, Harry Crabb, the father of Michael Crabb, Mary Baker, the mother of Marcia Priddy, Philip Cope, the father of Vivian Dines, Rachel Obadiah, the mother of Arlene Levine, Rita Lowy, the mother of Claire Francis and Michelle Lowy, and grandmother of Simon Adam and Thomas. And we regret to announce the death this week of Muriel Lewis, the mother of our member, Joe Paul. And with all those in mind and other names and people we remember always in our heart, let us say together the Kaddish. Gadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulal me'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei. V'tada v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudisha berichu. Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran v'alama v'imru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. V'osei shalom b'imruma. V'yasei shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. May great peace descend from heaven, and abundant life be granted to us and all Israel. And let us say, amen. Please sit down. In a moment we'll end with a Adon Olam, so I'll give you a minute to decide which tune you're going to do. One or two notices, and that is on Monday night, we've been looking at some of the founders of liberal Judaism for the last 5 weeks. And the last of the series is about Claude Montefiore, and I'm going to share the evening with Brian Diamond. Some of you may know or remember Brian. He's written a 400-page biography of Claude Montefiore, and I'm going to interview him about this incredible character. Looking forward, you already see some of very different art in the gallery next door. It's opening on Sunday, the 14th of April. I said the Communal Seder you should make a note of, and a certain Nelly Ben-Or is talking on Yom HaShoah, which is the 1st of May. Does anyone know Nelly? I don't know what happened. But we all know Nelly, but it would be wonderful again to hear her story of survival and refugee and moving and so on. How appropriate tonight's poem, I'm sure. You may know, or perhaps best if you don't know, but on Tuesday there is an actual election taking place, but it's not in this country unless something dramatic happens in the next couple of days, but anything could happen. But in Israel, and if you want more information about that, then on Monday evening at Eilith Garden Synagogue there is quite a top-notch panel who will be trying to explain the complexities of the Israel election, and maybe looking forward to that day. And looking further forward, on the 10th of May, we have our normal, that we'd already set for our Czech and Slovak Memorial Weekend, and then I noticed that the day before was Israel Independence Day. And then I remembered that we'd seen, Sharon and I had seen in Czech Republic, actually in a place called Brandiz nad Labem, an incredible exhibition which explores the relationship between the Czech military and the Israel military, both before, during, and after the Second World War. Before, under Masaryk, the Czechs were very, very positive towards the founding of Israel. And then during communist times, of course, it was completely off bounds, and they were perhaps the most anti-Israel of all of the Soviet countries. And then now, they're very close and positive ties. And the whole point is that if it was not for 6 Spitfires flown from Czech Republic to Israel in 1948, there's a good chance that Israel would have lost that war independence. It was the key factor during that time. And I've since found that actually 60 Spitfires and other, well, not all Spitfires, other planes redundant from the Second World War were flown from Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia into Israel during that time. Many of them didn't make it that far, but it was a deciding factor in 48 to 1951 until the communists sort of banned. So there's a fabulous exhibition which is being brought over especially, and I'm glad to say it's by permission, and I eventually had to go through various hoops, of the president of the Czech police force. So the Prague, the whole thing, he owns it, or he's the top, so he's given permission. And then 2 weeks later, we're showing a film made by Spielberg, as a matter of fact, on exactly that story of the Spitfires that were went from Czechoslovakia to save Israel in those very early days. So look out for it in Davar. It'll be hopefully sort of quite a thing. We do know that at the opening on the Friday the 10th, both the Israeli and the Czech ambassadors are coming, so it'll be sort of, and they'll open the exhibition for us. It'll be quite an impressive evening. Look forward to it. But we're looking forward even more now to Adon Olam, which is on page 525. Mashem Allah, Paterem Kol, Yisinevra, Liet Nosad, Achefsakol, Azai Melech Shmikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Imloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hovei, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara, Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem Kol Yitzin Ivra, Liet Nosa, B'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shmora, Ve'hu Echad V'en Sheni, L'hamshilo L'hachpira, V'li Rashem V'li Tachlin, V'lo Ha'oz V'hamizra, Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem Kol Yitzin Ivra, Liet Nosa, B'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shmukra, V'hu Eli V'chai Gali, V'tzochev li B'yetzara, V'hu Nisei Umanos li, Menat Kosi B'yomekra, Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem Kol Yitzin Ivra, Liet Nosa, B'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shmikra, B'yado Afkid Ruchi, B'yetishan V'ya'ira, B'imrochi V'viyati, Adonai li V'lo ira, Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem Kol Yitzin Ivra, Liet Nosa, B'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra. Please rise. Adonai Oz Li'amo Yitain, Adonai Varech et Amo V'Shalom. Eternal God, grant strength to your people. Eternal God, bless your people with peace. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. You made it, Michael. You didn't cough once. Well, I did.